Chapter 845. In fact, Chu Xiu was not too worried about his subordinates. One was that it was useless to worry. For half a year, Chu Xiu was trapped in the blood soul bead. If anything happened, it had already happened. Also, Chu Xiu believed in his subordinates. They were not mediocre people. Chu Xiu was not arrogant enough to think that without him, his subordinates would immediately fall apart. The Jianghu would continue to revolve even if no one was around. Sure enough, Luo Feiheng said. Your subordinates didn't suffer too much loss. When you were still there, although you didn't guard the Guanzhong torture room had its own foundation. Other people also knew that Guanzhong torture room was under your protection, so no one dared to attack. But as the news of your rebirth spread, there were some unranked forces eyeing the Guanzhong torture hall. Once they succeeded, there would be endless trouble in the future. So Brother Lu took his 4 subordinates to guard the Guanzhong torture room. After killing some people, they had stabilized the Guanzhong torture room. There was also the Jinwu Hall. Originally, the imperial court wanted to annex the Jinwu Hall directly. First, they let a person named Taoist Wuyang take action, but the other party refused. Later, Wei Shuya personally came to the Northern Yan Imperial Court. I don't know what he said, but the Northern Yan Imperial Court gave up. After that, the Northern Yan martial arts began to be restless again. Mei Qinglian and Peng Hu joined forces to barely suppress it. But speaking of which, Tang Ye and Yan Bugui, the 2 subordinates you accepted, are also talents. They actually stepped into the real pellet state in this kind of adversity, and became a martial arts grand master. And the 2 of them were also ruthless enough, so they deterred a group of people, temporarily stabilizing the Northern Yan martial arts. Hearing Luo Feiheng's words, Chu Xiu was also relieved. Among his subordinates, Chu Xiu was most optimistic about Tang Ye and Yan Bugui. One was talented and perceptive, while the other was stubborn to the extreme. If he wasn't a madman, then he was a genius. Now, it seemed that the 2 of them did not let him down. Chu Xiu didn't talk to Luo Feiheng for too long. After all, this was still the Sun family. After asking Luo Feiheng to return the Blood Soul Pearl to Yi Xiao, the 2 of them parted ways and left. The Sun family's patriarch's birthday celebration ended very quickly. In fact, there wasn't much to say. After showing his presence and receiving a wave of gifts, the birthday celebration was over. Sun Zhongming found Yi Xiao to be really pleasing to the eye, and he actually gave Yi Xiao a treasure artifact short saber, causing Yi Ting to be extremely envious. On the way back, they passed by a dilapidated temple. The elder of the Yi family saw that the sky was already dark, so he asked his men to temporarily put down their luggage and rest here. When they went to River East this time, they also bought some special products from River East, and brought them back to the Ji state to sell. The Yi clan was a small clan with a small business, and they wouldn't give up any tiny chance to earn money. Since they left the Sun clan, Yi Xiao seemed to have been isolated. All along the way, Yi Ting had been intentionally looking for trouble with him, whereas, that elder of the Yi clan didn't stop him. They were afraid of causing trouble when they went there, so that elder of the Yi clan could be considered to have a good view of the overall situation, and didn't allow them to cause trouble on the way. The most important thing was to celebrate the Sun clan's birthday celebration. But now that the matter had already been dealt with, he knew that Yi Ting was furious in his heart, so he would allow Yi Ting to vent it. One was the Yi clan's second young master. The other was a branch family disciple that wasn't heavily injured. Even an idiot knew how to choose. Yi Ting looked at Yi Xiao, who sat at the corner, and grunted coldly. Yi Xiao, go get some water. Yi Xiao frowned and said, We're on the mountain, where's the water from? Is the water in the group not enough? I asked you to go, so go. Cut the crap. Yi Ting suddenly flared up and directly smashed the bowl of soup in his hand at Yi Xiao. Even though the latter dodged it, Yi Xiao was splashed by the hot soup within the bowl. Everyone present went silent. They knew that Yi Ting was intentionally looking for trouble, so no one cared. Conversely, many people were watching as if they were watching a show, and that Yi clan elder was like this as well. Yi Xiao stood up abruptly and glared angrily at Yi Ting. But right at this moment, Chu Xiu's voice suddenly sounded out in his mind. Kill him. Yi Xiao shook abruptly, and he replied with disbelief in his mind. What did you say? Kill him? Even though Yi Xiao had been bullied and humiliated by Yi Ting for such a long time, truthfully speaking, the thought of killing someone had never appeared in his mind. After all, he was a member of the Yi clan. Even though he was a branch family disciple, the same blood flowed within him as Yi Ting. In the end, Chu Xiu asked him to kill someone, and this caused Yi Xiao to be slightly unable to accept it. Moreover, he hadn't killed anyone before. Of course you have to kill someone. He already hates you to the bone. If you don't kill him now, have you thought about the trouble you'll face in the future? Only all of you are present in this desolate mountain range. Destroy the corpses after killing him and casually push the blame onto bandits, and there'll absolutely not be the slightest flaw. Such a good opportunity is on your side at the right time, so what are you waiting for if you don't kill him? But there are no buts. Think about the humiliation you've suffered during these past few years. You took them to be members of the same clan, yet they only took you to be a dog. More precisely speaking, you're even inferior to a dog. Chu Xiu's words seemed to carry magic that stimulated the killing intent in Yi Xiao's heart, causing his eyes to gradually turn red as he walked slowly towards Yi Ting. Within the blood soul pearl, Lu Jiang he clicked his tongue and sighed. Kid, is it really good for you to do this? You actually used your spiritual force to stimulate the killing intent in his heart. Kid, you're a bit too cruel. They're your clansmen after all, and this kid has probably never even seen blood. Yet you asked him to slaughter his own clansmen. You're inhumane. Chu Xiu glanced at Lu Jianghe and said indifferently, I annihilated my entire clan with my own 2 hands when I was at his age. Lu Jianghe instantly went silent. He wouldn't suspect that Chu Xiu was deceiving him, as this person before him was simply frenzied and inhumane. At this moment, in the outside world, Yi Ting couldn't help but sneer when he saw Yi Xiao walking over towards him while revealing a ruthless expression. What? Could it be that you want to make a move against me? This young master took into account the overall situation within the Sun clan, and didn't flare up. Do you really think I've given you face? You have to remember. Yi Ting hadn't finished speaking when a light swish resounded out, and the sword in Yi Xiao's hand had suddenly left its sheath and stabbed into Yi Ting's body. Blood flowed out from Yi Ting's mouth as he looked at Yi Xiao who stood before him, and his expression was filled with disbelief. He killed me? He actually dared to kill me. Yi Ting wanted to raise his hand, yet in the next moment, his vitality had already dispersed, and his corpse fell straight to the ground. Yi Xiao looked at the sword in his hand that was tainted with blood, and his eyes revealed a slightly perplexed expression. This is the feeling of killing someone? He'd killed someone, and the person he killed for the first time was a fellow clansman. He didn't feel uncomfortable or disgusted, and it was even to the extent that he felt slightly comfortable in his heart. As he looked at the fellow that humiliated him lying on the ground, his hand that held the sword was still trembling slightly, and it wasn't from fear but excitement. Within the blood soul pearl, Lu Jiang he said with surprise, Oh my, this kid's performance isn't bad. He's able to be so composed even though it's his first time killing someone? Earlier, Lu Jiang he was rather dissatisfied with Chu Xiu's choice of Yi Xiao, and he felt that Yi Xiao was too weak and possessed weak strength and natural talent. But now it would seem that with this kid's disposition, Yi Xiao possessed the potential to walk the path of devils. Chu Xiu said indifferently, I've always firmly believed that human nature is evil by nature. Some people have suppressed it for too long, and they've hidden their evil thoughts at the bottom of their hearts, yet it would allow it to grow stronger and stronger. Yi Xiao is capable of enduring to such an extent for the sake of his crippled father that's about to die, and he can be considered to be an extremely filial person. But the more he's like this, the stronger the evil thoughts in his heart are. There's a devil in every single person's heart, and what I'm doing now is only letting him out. At this moment, everyone in the outside world was stunned for a short moment before seeming to have finally recovered from their shock, and they started crying out loudly. No matter what, they didn't dare believe that this Yi Xiao who'd always been incomparably useless, and allowed them to bully him would actually counterattack. Moreover, he killed Yi Ting as soon as he arrived, the second young master of our Yi clan. Has he gone mad? The sharp cries of these people jolted Yi Xiao back to his senses at the same time. As he looked at the sword in his hand that was tainted with blood, a cold light bloomed in his eyes as he charged towards the others. When it came to killing, it was easy to get used to it the second time. And once he killed a person, the rest would be easy. With the cultivation technique Chu Xiu gave him. Even though Yi Xiao was still at the blood condensation realm now, he was obviously not on the same level as the others, and it was simply a one-sided slaughter. That Yi Clan senior shouted out furiously. Bastard! How audacious of you! As a senior, he'd protected and escorted these juniors, yet now, it had caused the death of the second young master. This caused that Yi Clan senior to be able to imagine what sort of punishment he would suffer once he returned to the Yi Clan. It was even to the extent that he was regretting at this moment. Why didn't I stop Yi Ting when he humiliated Yi Xiao earlier? If I stopped Yi Xiao, then perhaps Yi Xiao wouldn't have gone mad to the point of killing him. The Yi Clan's breezy fallen leaf sword was agile and sharp. At this moment, when that Yi Clan senior executed it, sword lights shot out horizontally and vertically, and it was extremely gorgeous. His opponent was at the congenital realm, and even if Yi Xiao possessed the boost of his cultivation technique, his strength was inferior to his opponent. So he fell into a disadvantageous position after a few moves. Right when that Yi Clan senior intended to follow up his victorious attack and completely capture Yi Xiao suddenly withdrew his sword and approached him. A sharp blade light flashed in his left hand like an azure dragon emerging from the sea, and it caused others to be unable to react to it. After the cold light passed, that Yi Clan senior stood on the spot as he held onto his neck that had fresh blood spraying out, and he looked at the short blade in Yi Xiao's hand with an expression of disbelief. My Yi Clan uses the sword. Yet who exactly taught this terrifying blade technique of Yi Xiao's? This Yi Clan senior already didn't have the time to ponder deeply, and in the next moment, his corpse fell to the ground. Yi Xiao turned around, and the eyes of the other Yi Clan disciples revealed boundless terror, as they fled in all directions. Even a Yi Clan senior at the congenital realm had died. So how would they go against Yi Xiao? But at this moment, Yi Xiao's eyes had already gone red from the slaughter behind them, and there was only a single thought in his heart: kill. Chapter 846. This was the first time Yi Xiao had killed someone. In Chu Xiu's eyes, this was just passable. The main reason was that he had been in a daze too many times when he was fighting. If not for the fact that his opponents were too weak, he might have been injured. After killing everyone, Yi Xiao was almost exhausted. He sat on the ground, looking at his blood-stained hands and the corpses inside and outside the temple. He was in a daze, as if he couldn't believe that he had done all this. Chu Xiu said calmly, "All right, don't be in a daze. There's still one last step. Kill, set fire, and destroy the corpses. However, before destroying the corpses, use the great demonic blood technique to absorb the blood qi from the corpses. This blood qi should be enough for you to step into the innate realm. Store the rest in your body for future cultivation. To outsiders, you can say that you broke through when you were being chased." Yi Xiao's mouth twitched. He was just following Chu Xiu's instructions. After absorbing the blood qi with the great demonic blood technique, he destroyed all the corpses and the entire temple. At this time, inside the blood soul pearl, Lu Jiang he asked doubtfully, "You gave the blood qi to that kid. Aren't you going to use it for yourself?" Chu Xiu said calmly, "These pieces of trash haven't even reached the unity of heaven and man realm. Even if I take their blood qi, what can I do?" Lu Jiang he shook his head and said, "At this time, you shouldn't be so picky. The great demonic blood technique focuses on accumulating the blood qi. First, you can slowly condense a body. Then, you can think of a way to use this body to replenish your blood qi. Finally, you can slowly return to your peak. But how long will that take? I've already been delayed for half a year. I don't have time to play with them. I said that this time if I want to do it, I'll do it big. That's the way you use the great demonic blood technique to reconstruct your body. It's not what I want to use. What I need is not to repair and restore to my peak. Instead, I need to destroy and rebuild, to become stronger." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Lu Jiang he revealed a trace of suspicion. He naturally knew how much blood qi was required to reconstruct his body to its peak, and so did Chu Xiu. If he didn't accumulate it bit by bit, how could he get so much blood qi? He didn't even have a physical body, yet he still planned to destroy his entire family? However, Chu Xiu did not tell him the plan. This time Lu Jianghe did not ask too much. Just as Yi Xiao was about to leave, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "Stab yourself twice." Yi Xiao was suddenly stunned. What? What? Chu Xiu Xiao said. Yi Xiao snorted. Chu Xiao blood. Yu Xiu Yu's clans Yu. Yu Yi clan members Yu. Moreover, it's possible that you didn't die after encountering bandits. But if you don't even have the slightest injury, then it would be too fake. Don't take the members of the Yi clan to be idiots. Yi Xiao gritted his teeth and was really ruthless. He directly stabbed his abdomen twice, and it almost penetrated his body, causing a large amount of fresh blood to spray out instantly. One of the stabs was even close to a vital point. If it wasn't for the great demonic blood technique being able to control the flow of blood qi and prevent Yi Xiao from losing too much blood to death, he might not even be able to return to the Yi clan alive. A few days later, Yi Xiao, whose aura was low to the limit and seemed to be on the verge of death, barely managed to crawl to the entrance of the Yi clan. Yet he didn't say a single word before fainting. This time, he wasn't faking it, and he really fainted. There was a group of people when he left, yet only a half-dead person remained when he returned. The entire Yi clan was instantly in an uproar, and they started to treat Yi Xiao in a flurry. After Yi Xiao was saved, Yi Kuan and the other members of the Yi clan surrounded him and asked hurriedly, "Where's Yi Ting? Where's the other members of the Yi clan? What exactly happened?" When he heard Yi Kuan and the others ask this, Yi Xiao couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. He was still heavily injured now. Yet the patriarch and the others didn't ask him a single thing in the end, and they only cared about Yi Ting's safety. Of course, Yi Xiao knew his status in the clan now, and he gritted his teeth and said, "It was bandits. When we returned from the River East, we purchased some specialty products from the River East, and it was precisely because of this that we were targeted by bandits. The others were killed by the bandits, and only I escaped with my life." Truthfully speaking, as far as Chu Xiu was concerned, Yi Zhao's acting skills were too inferior, and his emotions weren't on point and weren't realistic. At the very least, it was far inferior to him. When encountering a situation like this, Yi Xiao ought to reveal a form of fear that had a lingering fear in his heart, a form of pain that he couldn't bear to recall the scene from that day, and a trace of sorrow that was just right. Only then would it be perfect. But now, his display was too composed, and his emotions were slightly flat. But because Yi Xiao had such a stubborn and stiff appearance in the Yi clan, no one doubted it at this moment. When Yi Kuan heard that his second son had actually died at the hands of bandits, his figure swayed and he almost fell. The eldest, Yi Ling, hurriedly supported his father. In his eyes, there was a trace of joy mixed with sorrow. His second brother had always been restless, and always wanted to replace his position. Now he finally had no chance. "Which group of bandits are they from? Our Yi clan will fight them to the death." Yi Kuan roared loudly. Yi Xiao shook his head and said, "I don't know. This is the first time I've left the Yi clan. I can't even identify the surrounding forces, let alone recognize those bandits." Everyone present nodded. That group of bandits did not always stay in the same place, so it was normal that Yi Xiao couldn't recognize them. Right at this moment, Yi Ling suddenly asked, "Second brother is dead, and seventh uncle, who is experienced and prudent, is also dead. Then how did you escape?" Hearing Yi Ling's words, the others finally realized that something was amiss. As the second young master of the Yi clan, Yi Ting had already reached the Khanate realm. He also had some life-saving techniques. The elder who led the Yi clan was the seventh son of the collateral branch. He also had Khanate realm cultivation, and was very experienced. In the end, he had also died. If anyone could escape, it should have been these two. How could Yi Xiao have a chance? Yi Xiao coughed and took out the dagger that Sun Zhongming had given him. He said, "When I was in the Sun clan, I had a pleasant conversation with the eldest young master of the Sun clan, Sun Zhongming. That was why young Master Sun gave me this precious weapon. Those bandits did not expect a small fry like me to have a precious weapon. In their carelessness, I broke their weapons and charged out. In the midst of the chase, I broke through to the Khanate realm, and was able to escape." Yi Kuan held the dagger in Yi Zhao's hand. The hilt of the dagger was indeed engraved with the Sun Clan's seal. This was a weapon forged by the Sun Clan. Previously, Yi Xiao had been unconscious. Now that he had woken up, no one had paid attention to his strength. Now that he had mentioned it, everyone realized that Yi Xiao had also reached the Khanate realm. This was a surprise. In a small clan like the Yi clan, those who could step into the Khanate realm in their 20s were all nurtured by the clan. Now that Yi Xiao had stepped over this threshold without relying on the clan's power, it could be said that fortune and misfortune were interdependent. Yi Kuan held the dagger and pondered for a moment before asking, "Are you really on good terms with Sun Zhongming, young master son?" Yi Xiao smiled bitterly. "How could I lie about this? Many people saw that scene. Clan leader can ask the other clans who attended the birthday banquet." Yi Kuan thought about it and handed the dagger in his hand to Yi Xiao. He said, "Since young master son thinks so highly of you, you have to perform well. The next time you see young master son, don't embarrass him. From today onwards, you will be in charge of the business in the clan. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask the elders in the clan." Everyone was stunned. It seemed that no one had expected Yi Kuan to hand over such an important authority to an outsider like Yi Xiao. Of course, many people understood that Yi Kuan was aiming for Sun Zhongming. The successor of the Sun clan from River East had taken a fancy to someone from the Yi clan. This was a great thing, so of course they had to make good use of it. Turning his head, Yi Kuan said coldly, "Bring some people to the scene of the incident, and see if you can find any clues. If I find out who did it, the Yi clan will not rest until they are dead." After everyone left, Yi Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. Just now he had been on tenterhooks, afraid that once he was discovered, he would be hacked to death by the Yi clan. "Don't be nervous. This kind of thing will be fine after you get used to it. It's always like this for the first time." Chu Xiu's voice sounded in Yi Zhao's mind. Yi Zhao's face turned pale. "There's a second time?" Chu Xiu said faintly, "You told a lie, so you have to use countless lies to make up for it. You killed one person, so naturally, you will have to kill countless people in the future to clear your path. Don't worry, it won't be too long." After saying that, Chu Xiu did not move. However, at that moment, Lu Jianghe chuckled and said, "I dare to bet that when you first killed someone and lied, you were much calmer than this lad." "How do you know?" "Because you are more shameless and black-hearted than this lad. It's a waste of talent for someone like you not to join the diabolism." Chu Xiu shook his head slightly. Actually, at the beginning, he had wanted to draw a clear line between himself and the diabolism. In the end, who would have thought that he would fall deeper and deeper into it? Over at the Yi clan, after Yi Xiao recovered from his injuries, his status in the Yi clan seemed to have undergone a huge change. His status was elevated to the level of a direct descendant, or rather, second only to the eldest young master Yi Ling. With the cultivation techniques and martial arts techniques that Chu Xiu had given him, in addition to the qi and blood that he had previously digested, Yi Zhao's cultivation level had improved by leaps and bounds. His career and strength had both soared, and he was respected and admired wherever he went. This feeling was simply like a dream to Yi Xiao. It was even to the extent that he was so happy that he almost forgot about Chu Xiu's existence. However, one night after a month, Chu Xiu suddenly said to Yi Xiao, "You should be prepared." "Prepared for what?" Yi Xiao looked confused. "Prepared to kill Yi Kuan and his son, or to destroy the entire Yi clan." Chapter 847. Whether it was killing Yi Kuan and his son or annihilating the Yi family, Yi Ling had never thought of this. He wanted to kill Yi Ting because Yi Ting had humiliated him previously. The hatred that he had accumulated for so many years had finally turned into killing intent under Chu Xiu's incitement. However, Yi Kuan and eldest young master Yi Ling had never humiliated him. Now that he was living well in the Yi family, why did they still want him to kill? For the first time, Yi Xiao felt an obvious resistance towards Chu Xiu. "Why do you want to kill the master and eldest young master?" Chu Xiu sneered and said, "You've been a steward for a few days and you've lost your sense of direction after being addressed as Lord a few times? Even if you don't kill them, they will suppress you sooner or later. What do you rely on to stand out in the Xiao family now? Do you rely on your own strength? Wrong, you rely on others to intimidate them. Yi Kuan and his son think that Sun Zhongming thinks highly of you, so they put in so much effort on you. However, haven't you noticed that their attitude towards you has changed subtly? Yi Xiao said blankly. What change? I've done everything I should have done. I've completed all the tasks that the master gave me. Yes, you've done very well, to the point that you've surpassed Yi Ling. He's the true heir of the Yi family, the eldest young master of the Yi family. What right do you have to do better than the heir of the Yi family? Yi Xiao immediately wanted to retort when he heard this, but he swallowed his words before they could leave his mouth. He was not an idiot. He knew that one's achievements could overawe the master. If Sun Zhongming didn't think highly of you, you would only be a collateral disciple no matter how outstanding your performance was. You might become a steward of the Yi family in the future, a pillar of support for the Yi family, but that's all. However, Sun Zhongming thinks highly of you now. What does this mean? It means that Sun Zhongming might interfere with the Yi family's affairs as the Sun family of River East and forcefully support you to the position of master of the Yi family. The Yi family belongs to the direct line of descent. It belongs to Yi Kuan and Yi Ling, but it doesn't belong to you. The one who strikes first gains the upper hand, and the one who strikes later suffers a calamity. Don't tell me you want to wait for them to attack first? Chu Xiu's words constantly impacted Yi Zhao's worldview. Perhaps he still couldn't believe that the human heart could be so complicated and vicious. In fact, he was indeed unable to believe it, because even though Yi Ting frequently bullied him in the past, Yi Ling had helped him in the past. In his eyes, Yi Kuan, the family head, was a selfless person. He could not believe that Yi Kuan would think this way. Therefore, Yi Xiao said directly, "Senior, if you want me to do something else, I can do it. But if you want me to kill my own clansmen because of this kind of speculation, forgive me for not being able to do it." Chu Xiu didn't force him. He just smiled and said, "Can't do it? I'll only say this once. I'll wait for the day when you can do it, but I hope you won't regret it at that time." This Yi Xiao was still too young. He saw things too simply. No matter how much they fought, they were still father and son, while he, Yi Xiao, was only an ordinary branch disciple. In the past, Yi Ling had helped Yi Xiao purely because he wanted to disgust his younger brother, and at the same time, he wanted to show his respect. As for Yi Kuan, as the family head, even if he had selfish motives, he couldn't show it in public. As for secretly, he only represented the direct line of descent of the Yi family. Naturally, he was thinking of his own son. Even though Yi Xiao didn't completely believe what Chu Xiu had said, he still paid attention and discovered some suspicious points. Yi Kuan and his son's attitude towards him was indeed somewhat abnormal. A few days later, the Yi family had a meeting. Yi Kuan sat on the main seat and rubbed his head with a slight headache. He said, "You should know about the fallout between the River East Sun family and the Gao Pinglu family. Not only have they not reconciled, but the conflict has become even more intense, and the flames of war have already spread to the lower levels. Our Yi family has supplied the River East Sun family with ores for so many years, and both parties have long been bound to suffer and prosper together. However, the Jiang family in the Ji State Prefecture has already defected to the Lu family. Our two families are both in the Ji State Prefecture, and there is bound to be a battle. Therefore, the trade caravans that come and go should be more cautious, Yi Xiao." Yi Xiao perked up and hurriedly said, "Yes, master." The trade caravans were under his jurisdiction, so Yi Xiao thought that Yi Kuan was preparing to increase his manpower to prevent the Jiang family from attacking their trade caravans. However, Yi Kuan said at that moment, "Compared to the trade caravans, the Yi family's mine is the foundation. Therefore, during this period, you should go to the mine and help second uncle guard it. I will send more elders from the family to manage the trade caravans." When Yi Xiao heard this, his face suddenly turned pale. He was not an idiot. Although the Yi family's mine was indeed more important than the trade caravans in name, there was already an elder warrior from the Yi family guarding the mine. Even Yi Kuan had to address him as second uncle. If a junior like him went, he would basically be a figurehead. Yi Kuan was clearly stripping him of his authority. However, he did not dare to refute Yi Kuan, so he could only nod in agreement. The other disciples of the Yi clan looked at Yi Xiao with a subtle expression. Yi Xiao had been in the limelight during this period, but it was best for people to keep a low profile and not be too arrogant. Now he was beaten back to his original state. Yi Xiao packed up his belongings and headed to the mine. The outcome was already decided. Although the mine was the foundation of the Yi family, it had always been a place for the Yi family to retire. In the past, when Yi Ling was in charge of the mine, he would only go there occasionally. It was always a few elders from the family who were stationed there. Yi Xiao was an outstanding disciple of the younger generation, but now he was sent to the mine to retire. It was obvious what this meant. After Yi Ling left, Yi Kuan sighed and said, "What a pity." Yi Ling asked in surprise, "What's a pity?" Yi Kuan said mildly, "It's not that the Yi family cannot tolerate others, but Yi Xiao was first favored by the young master of the Sun family, and now he has displayed such strength. If we don't suppress him, who knows who the Yi family will belong to in the future?" At this point, Yi Kuan even glared at Yi Ling. "If you had worked harder and suppressed Yi Xiao, why would I have to be the bad guy?" Yi Ling's face was gloomy. Who would have thought that the previously mediocre and somewhat cowardly Yi Xiao's cultivation would improve by leaps and bounds after a trip to the Sun family? Even Yi Kuan felt a little pressured. After being sent to the mine for a month, Yi Xiao was about to go crazy. After tasting the taste of power and influence, no one could let it go. At the same time, Yi Xiao felt a deep sense of grievance and indignation. During this period, he had diligently led the Yi family caravan to various places in eastern Qi. His speed was much faster than those lazy elders from the Yi family. In the end, he had made so many contributions, yet he was banished to this place. What right did he have? Chu Xiu's voice rang quietly in his ear. "Do you believe my words now? If you return to the Yi family now, there might be a surprise waiting for you." Yi Xiao gritted his teeth. This time he finally listened to Chu Xiu. He left without saying goodbye and secretly rushed back to the Yi family. When he returned to the Yi family, the first person he went to see was his father. All these years, Yi Xiao had used his own allowance to keep his father alive. It could be said that the entire Ji state capital knew of Yi Xiao's reputation. Although some people said that he was foolish, they had to admit that he was a filial son. However, when he returned to the Yi family and returned to his courtyard, he found that it was empty. The servant girl who had served him was gone, and his father was gone as well. Yi Xiao's heart immediately sank. He hurriedly ran out and pulled over a Yi family servant. He asked loudly, "Where is my father? Where did my father go?" The Yi family servant was stunned and asked in surprise, "Young Master Yi Xiao, why are you here? Let me ask you, where did my father go?" The servant was shocked by Yi Xiao's bloodshot eyes. He hurriedly said, "Your father passed away half a month ago." Yi Xiao was stunned and murmured, "Impossible. Impossible. I had clearly instructed the servant girls to take care of my father. I have given them my monthly allowance. How could he have left? Why didn't anyone tell me?" The servant shrank his neck and said, "After you left, eldest young master reduced your allowance to the same level as before. That small amount of allowance was not enough to feed so many servant girls, much less for healing medicine. As for why I didn't tell you, I'm not sure either." Yi Xiao stood there dejectedly. He had not expected that his forbearance would lead to such an outcome. At that moment, Yi Ling received news of his return. Yi Ling stormed in angrily and said coldly, "Who allowed you to leave your post without the family's orders?" Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he said, "Why did you reduce my allowance? Why didn't you tell me that something had happened to my father?" Yi Ling frowned and said, "You were previously the steward of the merchant group. Now that you have gone to the mines, you no longer hold the title of steward. Is it wrong for me to restore your allowance to what it was before? Moreover, the Yi family is in constant conflict with the Jiang family. How would we have the time to care about your matters?" Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he turned and left. Yi Ling, who was behind him, snorted coldly and said, "Leave? Leave your post without permission. You will receive punishment from the family later." Outside the long street, Yi Xiao's eyes were red as he muttered, "Why? Why?" Chu Xiu's voice rang in Yi Xiao's ear. "Why? Because you are not the son of the family leader. It is because your existence is in the way of some people. Do you think that every family leader is selfless and will think for the entire family? If Yi Kuan had such awareness, the Yi family would not be in its current state. Do you still not understand, lad? Your father was severely injured and crippled for the sake of the family. Your so-called family only threw some money at him at the beginning, and then ignored him. You can already foresee their cold nature. Now, you should know what you should do, right? Yi Zhao's eyes were red as he gripped the sword in his hand tightly. He said coldly, "Kill." Chapter 848. In the great hall of the Yi family, Yi Kuan could not help but frown when he heard Yi Ling report that Yi Xiao had returned. "Big brother, you were a little rash in this matter. I had just removed Yi Xiao from his position as the steward of the caravan. You reduced his allowance and caused his father's death. This will cause the rest of the clan to criticize you. You must know that you will be the future head of the family. You should be more open-minded about these small matters. You must not allow others to gossip about you." Yi Ling hurriedly said, "I understand, father. I was a little anxious. However, he is no longer a steward now. I feel that it is a waste for him to still take his allowance." Just as Yi Ling was about to say something, Yi Xiao suddenly walked into the great hall. Yi Ling was a little surprised. Where were the disciples guarding the door? Had they secretly gone to drink again? When he became the head of the family in the future, he should really discipline these people. They could not be as undisciplined as they were now. Yi Ling walked over and snorted coldly. "Now you know to come back and ask for forgiveness? You left your post without the family's permission, and chose to do so at a time when the Yi family and the Jiang family are so close. Do you know?" Before Yi Ling could finish speaking, a cold glint had already slashed across his neck. At such a close distance, and with such a fast slash, Yi Ling's head flew into the air. Only then did he react. Why did the corpse below look so much like his own? "Yi Xiao!" Yi Kuan roared in rage. He could not believe that Yi Xiao had dared to kill his eldest son in front of him. Yi Kuan's figure moved. He could no longer care about anything else. He did not have a weapon in hand, so he gathered all the vital energy in his body and grabbed at Yi Xiao. Yi Xiao was holding the precious weapon dagger in his hand. However, there was a huge realm difference between them. He could kill Yi Ling with a sneak attack, but he was not confident that he could kill Yi Kuan, even with a precious weapon. However, Yi Xiao had already made up his mind. After killing someone, his ferocious nature was completely aroused. He did not dodge or retreat. He watched as Yi Kuan's palm landed on his chest. With a wave of his right hand, the qi and blood condensed in Yi Ling's body attached to his hand. Like a blade, it pierced through Yi Kuan's protective vital energy and stabbed into his chest. With Yi Zhao's current strength, he could not even release his inner force, let alone the blood-dissipating divine saber. Therefore, he could only use all his strength, condensing the power of his qi and blood in his hand, and kill Yi Kuan with a knife hand. However, the price he paid was that he took Yi Kuan's palm head-on, and had his meridians shattered. Yi Xiao spat blood as he looked at Yi Kuan, and his face carried a trace of a ferocious smile. "I forgot to tell you your second son Yi Ting was killed by me as well." Along with Yi Xiao slowly pulling his hand out from Yi Ting's body, he instantly fell to sit on the ground, and the strength in his entire body seemed as if it had been sucked dry. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "If I were you right now, I would quickly absorb Yi Kuan and his son's vital energy and blood, and then escape. The people of the Yi clan are not idiots. Although the commotion here is not too big, as long as one person accidentally discovers it, you will not be able to leave the Yi clan today." Yi Xiao gritted his teeth. He used the great demonic blood technique to absorb the blood qi, and was about to leave. However, Chu Xiu said, "Bring the heads of both of them." Yi Xiao was stunned. "Why?" "For the sake of annihilating the Yi clan, of course. With your current half-dead state, how will you annihilate the Yi clan by relying on your own strength?" Even though Yi Xiao didn't know what Chu Xiu meant, he noticed now that so long as he did as the senior said, then there wouldn't be any problems. If he listened to this senior at that time, then perhaps his father wouldn't have died. Within the Blood Soul Pearl, Lu Jiang he clicked his tongue and sighed as he looked at Yi Xiao, who was extremely proficient in cutting off heads and fleeing, and he said, "This kid really got into character quickly." But at this moment he suddenly changed the topic and said, "You did it intentionally earlier, right?" Chu Xiu's brows raised as he said, "What intentionally?" Lu Jianghe's eyes narrowed as he looked at Chu Xiu and said, "If you told that kid Yi Xiao the cause and effect of everything in detail, and then forcefully made him listen to you, then perhaps his father wouldn't have to die." Chu Xiu said faintly, "You're right, I did it intentionally. How can one grow without going through hardships? People can buy anything in this life, but they can't buy medicine for regret. There's only one choice, and I've already told him everything, but he still made a wrong choice, so he can't blame anyone else. It's his opportunity to meet me, and I'm using him to reconstruct my body. Everything I've given him in this process is a reward. But if he can't seize this opportunity, then he can't blame anyone else. People have to learn to make choices, don't they?" Lu Jianghe was speechless. He seemed to have discovered that Chu Xiu was really cold to the extreme. Apart from his few good friends, Chu Xiu's attitude towards others had always been to trample those who stood in his way to death, and kill those who opposed him. As for others, if they wanted to live or die, what did it have to do with him? It was the same for this kid outside now. Lu Jianghe had thought that Chu Xiu was going to train this kid well, and make him a disciple. Now it seemed that Chu Xiu might have such intentions. However, if this kid couldn't hold on during the training process, then he could only blame himself for being unlucky. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Yi Xiao hurriedly left the Yi family after cutting off the two heads. It had to be said that the management of the Yi family was extremely lax. The servants who were patrolling at night were all lazy. In addition, Yi Xiao was an acquaintance, and the news of his return had been known by many people. Therefore no one stopped him, allowing him to leave the Yi family smoothly. "Senior, where should we go now?" Yi Xiao began to subconsciously ask Chu Xiu what they should do next. "Do you know where the Jiang family, which is opposing your Yi family, is?" "Of course I do. Throw the two heads in the Jiang family's courtyard, and then you don't have to worry about it. The Jiang family will help you deal with the rest." Yi Xiao was stunned for a moment, but then he understood what Chu Xiu meant. He couldn't help but tremble. The Jiang family and the Yi family had long been like fire and water because of the battle between the Sun family and the Lu family of Gaoping. Now that the Jiang family had seen the heads of the Yi family's father and son, how could they not take action? The most important thing was to take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Yi family. At that time, who would care about how the Yi family's father and son died? Yi Xiao suddenly realized that this mysterious senior's strength might not be in martial arts, but in the calculation of the overall situation and people's hearts. He easily used the hatred between the two families to easily solve everything. Perhaps even he himself was a chess piece controlled by this senior, and was being calculated and manipulated. Yi Xiao did not dare to think about deeper things, nor could he think about it. At least following this senior he could get visible benefits, and that was enough. What happened next was just as Chu Xiu expected. After the Jiang family found the heads of Yi Kuan and his son, they immediately took action, and brought people to destroy the Yi family. With such great news, the Jiang family didn't care whether it was strange or not. After destroying the Yi family, they could go to the Lu family of Gaoping to claim credit. When the Yi family was destroyed, Yi Xiao watched from a restaurant not far from the Yi family. Seeing the Yi family, which gave birth to and raised him, indirectly destroyed in his own hands, Yi Xiao felt a little complicated for a moment. However, he quickly stabilized his emotions and asked, "Senior, what should we do now?" Chu Xiu said slowly, "Go to River East and find Sun Zhongming. Your family was destroyed in the battle between the Sun family and the Lu family. Now you can only rely on him. There is only one thing I need you to do, and that is to become Sun Zhongming's confidant. I will help you achieve this, and you just need to promise not to give yourself away." Yi Xiao nodded, looked back at the family one last time, and turned to leave. Half a month later, in the Sun family of River East, Yi Xiao told Sun Zhongming what happened to the Yi family, with a sorrowful face. According to him, the Yi family was destroyed because they stood firmly on the side of the Sun family. Compared to before, Yi Xiao's acting skills were much better at this time. Although he couldn't be compared to Chu Xiu, who Lu Jianghe said was lying through his teeth, At least Sun Zhongming didn't see anything wrong. Hearing this, he suddenly snorted coldly and said, "Lu family of Gaoping, you have gone too far." During this time, the friction between the Sun family and the Lu family of Gaoping had been continuous, and even more intense. The reason was very simple. Neither family wanted to give up the cultivation methods in their hands. Among the things that were taken from the illusory six realms, the cultivation methods that the Sun family and the Lu family had obtained were one of the most precious. The Sun family wanted this cultivation method because although the Sun family's true ice chi was not weak, it was not strong either. For so many years, the Sun family could rely on this not too strong cultivation method to continuously produce several true fire spirit refinement realm experts. It could only be said that the Sun family kept a low profile and endured patiently. Their family business was indeed not weak, and they also had the protection of their ancestors. However, if they could obtain a cultivation method above the 9 refinement realm, it would be even better to improve the Sun family's martial arts. The reason why the Lu family of Gaoping did not give up was that part of this cultivation method was related to spear techniques, which could be integrated into their martial arts. Naturally, they were not willing to give up. As for why they did not join forces to learn this cultivation method together, the reason was very simple. No force was willing to show their core cultivation method to the public. Once their core cultivation method was obtained by others, even if others did not cultivate it, they would be able to deduce their weaknesses based on the cultivation method. This was equivalent to handing over their weaknesses to others. Of course, the Sun family and the Lu family were not willing to let this happen. Sun Zhongming patted Yi Xiao on the shoulder and said, "Your Yi family is in trouble because of my Sun family. From now on, you will follow me. I will not mistreat you. Sai, this is not the first time something like this has happened. My Sun family and the Lu family of Gaoping have been in constant conflict recently, and it has already affected some of the vassal families. My Sun family has been low-key these years, and the number of vassal families is far less than that of the Lu family. In this regard, we are still at a disadvantage." At this moment, Yi Xiao suddenly froze, then said directly, "Young master, I have a plan that can solve this problem." Chapter 849. Sun Zhongming only had a good impression of Yi Xiao. From his point of view, this disciple of a small family was very much to his liking. It wouldn't be a bad idea to keep him by his side as a follower. But now, Yi Xiao actually said that he had a way to solve this matter. This was a little too arrogant. Sun Zhongming thought that Yi Xiao was eager to gain merit after joining him, which made Sun Zhongming somewhat unhappy. Hence, Sun Zhongming furrowed his brows. "You have a way?" Yi Xiao nodded. "Young master, those so-called vassal families aren't that close to the Lu clan. Some of them can be bribed with money." Sun Zhongming snorted coldly. "Do I need you to say that? I also know that some of them can be bribed with money, but such families are in the minority. Most of the families know which side they should stand on." Yi Xiao said solemnly, "They know, but the Lu clan might not trust them. Young master, you can only send people to those vassal families that you feel won't betray the Lu clan. Furthermore, you have to let the Lu clan see that we're there. However, we don't have to open our mouths to recruit them. They can just stay for a while and leave. As for those families that you can bribe with money, you can bribe them with money. This way, I can guarantee that the entire Lu clan will fall into chaos without us having to do anything." Sun Zhongming wasn't stupid. When Yi Xiao finished speaking, he immediately understood what the core of the plan was. There was only one word to describe it: suspicion. The Lu clan definitely wouldn't trust those vassal families completely, because it was the same for the Sun clan. After the Sun clan's people left, the Lu clan would go to the vassal families one by one to question them. At that time, those who didn't betray them would definitely say that the Sun clan's people came and said nothing. Those who received money and were prepared to betray them would also say the same thing. This way, the truth would be mixed with the lies, and the seeds of suspicion would be planted. The Sun clan wouldn't even need to make a move. They would fall into chaos on their own. The more Sun Zhongming thought about it, the more he felt that it was ingenious. He laughed and patted Yi Xiao's shoulder. "Not bad, not bad. I'll go tell father about this right now. Don't worry, you'll have a lot of credit." Yi Xiao shook his head and said, "No, young master, this is all thanks to you. You were the one who came up with all these plans. This subordinate is only doing the work." Sun Zhongming's face revealed a faint smile. He looked at Yi Xiao and said, "Are you going to give me the credit? Do you know that at this time you've helped my Sun family with such a big favor? Even if you're not a member of the Sun family, the reward will still not be small." Yi Xiao's expression was solemn as he said, "Last time, this subordinate already said that the person this subordinate respects the most is young master. This subordinate knows that within the Sun clan, there are still some people who aren't convinced of young master's abilities. This battle with the Lu clan is a good opportunity for young master to stand out. This credit belongs to young master, which is much more useful than giving it to this subordinate. I'm not pressuring the entire Sun family, but you. As long as you can become the family head in the future, I believe that you won't mistreat me. Although this subordinate does not dare to say that I am farsighted, at least I am not so short-sighted." The more Sun Zhongming looked at Yi Xiao, the more he liked him. As the heir of the Sun family on the surface, he actually had quite a number of subordinates. However, most of them could only be subordinates. They couldn't even do things properly, let alone give him advice and suggestions. And this Yi Xiao, other than being slightly weaker, was quick-witted and knew how to scheme. Where else could he find such subordinates? "Good. Yi Xiao, this young master will not let you down. Whatever you want, this young master will make it come true for you in the future." After encouraging Yi Xiao for a while, Sun Zhongming called for people to arrange Yi Xiao's accommodation and gave him a large pile of elixirs. Only then did he leave in satisfaction to report the situation to his father. In the Blood Soul bead, Chu Xiu shook his head. He had overestimated this Sun Zhongming. Although the other party's strength and talent were not bad, when it came to doing things, he had great ambitions but little talent. In the past on the Longhu list, not to mention monstrous talents like Zhang Qingjin and Zhong Xian, even people like Xie Xiaolu and Yin Fian had no opponents in their respective sections. They didn't have to worry about competing with others in their sections. But this Sun Zhongming actually didn't even manage his own affairs after so many years. He was simply trash. After Sun Zhongming reported the plan, it immediately received the attention of the current Sun family head, who was also Sun Zhongming's father, Sun Qifang. At present, the Sun family and the Lu family had not directly fought each other. Both sides only had small-scale conflicts. However, the battle between the vassal family heads had already seen blood, and the Sun family was at a disadvantage. Now that Sun Zhongming presented such a plan, it could be said that it solved the Sun family's urgent situation. This immediately made the Sun family overjoyed, and they immediately acted according to Sun Zhongming's plan. As a result, in less than a month, the Lu family became suspicious of their vassal families. After repeated inspections and conflicts, their vassal families were divided. Many of them simply took the initiative to seek refuge with the Sun family, and the situation between the two sides was suddenly reversed. Moreover, after Chu Xiu came to the Sun family, he gave the Sun family many ideas, and all of them were strategies to destroy the family. To put it bluntly, in Chu Xiu's opinion, the Sun family of River East and the Lu family of Gaoping were a bit too useless. It was not that their strength was useless, but that the Sun family of River East and the Lu family of Gaoping had been living too comfortably these years. These two clans were in the middle of the 9 great clans. The Ying family of Shangshui stood at the peak, and their strength was so strong that they didn't even dare to think about it. The Dong family, the Luo family, and the other families were too weak to pose a threat to them. As a result, the Sun family and the Lu family had not formally fallen out with anyone for a long time. Therefore, in Chu Xiu's opinion, this method was a bit too gentle, and also a bit too inflexible. Therefore, after Chu Xiu came to the Sun family of River East, he told Yi Xiao many of the despicable methods of the Sun family, so that Sun Zhongming could tell the Sun family, and then use it against the Lu family. For example, cutting off the trade routes around the Lu family, so that some of the resources and materials that the Lu family needed would be greatly reduced. Otherwise, he would send people to provoke the forces that had a grudge against the Lu family, and have them cause trouble behind the Lu family. Chu Xiu even gave Sun Zhongming ideas. asking him to use force or enticement to gather more than half of the bandits in eastern Qi around the Lu family, causing the entire Gaoping prefecture to be in a mess. In the vast Gaoping prefecture, there were actually more than 10 forces that couldn't stand the fight between the two families, and had no choice but to move away. This indirectly caused the Lu family of Gaoping prefecture to suffer losses. After all, these forces could be around the Gaoping Lu family. Either the other party was a vassal family of the Gaoping Lu family, or they also chose to surrender to the Gaoping Lu family. Although these methods were not enough to hurt the Gaoping Lu family, they caused constant trouble for the Gaoping Lu family. Previously, when the Sun family and the Lu family fought, the Lu family actually had a slight advantage. After all, the Sun family had just lost 2 real pellet state martial artists. As a result, the offensive and defensive relationship between the two sides had changed. Although Chu Xiu asked Yi Xiao to give all these credits to Sun Zhongming was not an idiot. He would do something like the father and son of the Yi family. Sun Zhongming directly brought Yi Xiao with him all the time as his first confidant. He appreciated Yi Xiao very much, and he almost became sworn brothers with him. However, Chu Xiu was still a little dissatisfied. The Sun family and the Lu family were simply cowards. Since they came out of the illusionary realm 6, the two sides had been in direct conflict for more than half a year. In the end, they still didn't want to really fight, and there was no result. It was really too slow. Chu Xiu was now already thinking, do I need to add more fuel to the fire for both sides? At this moment, Sun Zhongming was preparing to take Chu Xiu to Nanliang city of eastern Qi. Sun Zhongming now regarded Yi Xiao as his confidant, so he had told him everything and asked him to help him consult. This time, Sun Zhongming went to Nanliang city to buy intelligence from the Wind Sweeping Building, to buy intelligence about the Lu family. Now that the two sides were at loggerheads, ordinary anemophilia would definitely not dare to sell the intelligence to the Sun family, so the Sun family could only go to the Wind Sweeping Building to buy it. As for why the Sun family did this, the reason was very simple. Now the Sun family was still struggling whether to fight or not. The Sun family had been used to keeping a low profile and forbearance over the years. It was impossible for them to act decisively. However, they kept having the feeling that things were going too smoothly, and the Sun family had inexplicably gained the upper hand. If it were any other aristocratic family, they would definitely take this opportunity to defeat their opponent in one go. However, the Sun family was different. After gaining the upper hand, they still felt a little uneasy. Hence, they wanted to obtain detailed information about the Lu family and analyze whether they should take action or not. After they arrived at Nanliang City, Sun Zhongming brought Yi Xiao along to the Wind Sweeping Building, but he never expected that he would be given the cold shoulder. The anemophilia from the Wind Sweeping Building were extremely sly. Even though they'd been paying attention to the battle between the Lu and Sun family at all times, they didn't intend to interfere. To the Wind Sweeping Building, all they had to do was be a witness, and they wouldn't take sides at such a critical moment. Even if the Sun family didn't intend to make a move against the Lu family immediately, and they only wanted to confirm the strength of both sides, it still wouldn't do. Sun Zhongming couldn't succeed no matter how he tried, and he could only return to the inn resentfully. He intended to think about if there was any other way. After nightfall, Yi Xiao sat cross-legged on the bed in the inn and continued cultivating. He knew that strength wasn't easy to come by, and even if he had a ready-made cultivation technique, he still couldn't avoid cultivating bitterly. After following Sun Zhongming, he didn't lack any medicinal pills, so he would cultivate bitterly whenever he had the time. Now he had already advanced to the inner supreme realm, and it could be said to be godly speed. At this moment, the window of the inn seemed to have been eroded by the wind, and it mysteriously turned into powder. A woman wrapped in black had appeared outside the window, and the long saber in her hand flickered with a cold light. In the next moment, she was already before Yi Xiao. The difference in strength between the two parties was too great, and by the time Yi Xiao reacted, he could already feel the cold light on the edge of the saber. Just as various thoughts flashed through Yi Xiao's mind, and he was waiting for death unwillingly, Chu Xiu suddenly shouted in his mind, "Call out to Mu Zi." Yi Xiao couldn't be bothered about anything else, and he subconsciously shouted, "Mu Zi." The woman in black's body shook, and the saber that was already close to Yi Zhao's neck was retracted. Chapter 850. The blade was only a few centimeters away from Yi Zhao's neck. This was the first time he felt what death was like. At this time, the woman in black asked with a trembling voice, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" She had used this name a long time ago. Only a few people in the Blue Dragon Society knew about it. At least, this person in front of him definitely didn't know. Yi Zhao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He didn't know what to say at this moment. This name was told by that mysterious senior, so how could he know what was going on? At this time, Chu Xiu's voice rang in Yi Zhao's ears. "Give her the blood soul bead." Yi Zhao immediately took out the blood soul bead and handed it to Mu Ziyi. Mu Ziyi hesitantly took it, and in the next moment, her mental force was pulled into the blood soul bead. Mu Ziyi vigilantly held the willow-curved eyebrow saber in front of her, but when she saw Chu Xiu inside, her eyes immediately turned red. "Young Master Chu, I knew it. You won't die, I knew it." Mu Ziyi's expression was emotional. Her expression seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time. She couldn't even control her emotions. Chu Xiu didn't expect this girl to care about him so much. In fact, Chu Xiu didn't know that after learning of his death, Mu Ziyi really wanted to secretly poison Bu Tiannan to avenge him. She wasn't strong enough, so she could only do this little for Chu Xiu. To Chu Xiu, Mu Ziyi was just a girl he saved and enlightened when he was young. Even after that incident, Chu Xiu didn't care about Mu Ziyi's life or death. Although in the eyes of outsiders, Chu Xiu's behavior at that time could be said to be extremely cold. That was Chu Xiu's personality. "If I find you pleasing to the eye, I can spend some time to enlighten you, but if you really want to die, I won't bother." However, to Mu Ziyi, Chu Xiu's position was completely different. He was the person who gave her a second life. When the Mu family was exterminated, the only thing that kept Mu Ziyi alive was revenge. Later on, Chu Xiu helped her take revenge and said a few words when she was about to die, allowing her to let go of death and obtain a new life. Chu Xiu's position in her heart was indescribable. It could even be said that Chu Xiu's position was even more important than her adoptive father, the Blue Dragon Society's second dragon head, Duanmu Qianshan, who took care of her and guided her to where she was now. Lu Jianghe stood at the side with a gloomy expression. This girl treated him like he was invisible from the moment she came in. Lu Jianghe couldn't help but say, "I say, Chu Xiu brat, you really have a lot of luck with women. That girl from the Yin demon sect, and that girl from the Luo family. Tell me in detail, how many women do you have that I don't know?" "Shut up." Chu Xiu rebuked Lu Jianghe, then turned his head and said, "Although I'm not dead, I'm not much better now. As you can see, I can only stay here temporarily in the blood soul bead, and rely on that brat outside to move around." Mu Ziyi immediately said, "It's all right, young Master Chu. I will immediately take the blood soul bead to my adoptive father. No matter what price I have to pay, I will help you reconstruct your body." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "No need, I naturally have a way to reconstruct my body. But why are you here? I remember that you were exiled to the northern Yan side by Bu Tiannan, right? Also, why did you kill Yi Zhao?" The last time Chu Xiu saw Mu Ziyi was exiled to the northern Yan side from the Blue Dragon Society, because of the conflict between his adoptive father, Duanmu Qianshan. Why did she come back now? Mu Ziyi smiled bitterly and said, "It's a bit complicated, and it's related to you, young Master Chu." "Related to me?" Mu Ziyi nodded and said, "When my adoptive father found out that young Master Chu was in trouble, Bu Tiannan hit you when you were down. He quarreled with Bu Tiannan, and thought that it was stupid to make enemies with the Yinma clan because of a moment of anger and personal grudges. But not only did Bu Tiannan not listen to him, he even angrily said that my adoptive father had no right to control his actions. In addition, that despicable Duan Tianlang added fuel to the fire, so my adoptive father was directly stripped of his power by the Great Dragon Head, and sent to the Blue Dragon Society headquarters to reflect on his actions. When my adoptive father was in trouble, I wanted to come back to take a look. Maybe Bu Tiannan thought that I, a woman, couldn't cause any trouble, so he called me back to Eastern Qi. As for killing Yi Zhao, I accepted the task. After all, I am still in the Blue Dragon Society, and I can't refuse all the tasks given to me by my superiors. Chu Xiu nodded in understanding and asked, Do you know who asked you to kill Yi Xiao? It's Lu Guangling from the Lu clan of Gao Ping. Recently, the Lu clan of Gao Ping has suffered quite a bit, so they wanted to ask the Blue Dragon Society to kill some people from the Sun clan to regain some face. It seems that the Lu clan doesn't want to completely fall out with the Sun clan, so the Lu clan's targets are those who aren't directly related to the Sun clan. This Yi Xiao is Sun Zhongming's trusted aide, and it seems that he's very valued, so he naturally became the target. The Blue Dragon Society indeed had a rule that they couldn't reveal the employer's information, but for the current Mu Zi, at least in front of Chu Xiu, this rule was as good as non-existent. After pondering for a while, Chu Xiu asked Mu Zi, So Lu Guangling is also in Nanliang City now? Mu Zi nodded and said, He said he wanted to see the scene when Sun Zhongming's trusted aide was killed, so he specially came to Nanliang City. Chu Xiu pondered and said, How about this? You can't kill Yi Xiao. He's still very useful to me. You can just ignore the Lu clan for now. I want to ask you a question now. You know about the grudge between me and Butiannan. What's your adoptive father, Duanmu Qianshan's attitude? In the future, Chu Xiu wanted to find those who hit him when he was down to settle the score, but the Blue Dragon Society wasn't so easy to deal with. Not to mention Butiannan, as the strongest of the four spirits, the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were all over the world for many years. With all 36 branches gathered, their might was extremely shocking. Therefore, Chu Xiu really wanted to know what the Blue Dragon Society's attitude towards Butiannan was. Mu Zi said in a deep voice, Adoptive father has always been loyal to the Blue Dragon Society, not to Butiannan alone. Adoptive father even had the chance to fight for the position of the chief dragon, but he gave it up because Butiannan was more talented in martial arts. But now, adoptive father regrets it, not because he didn't get the position of the chief dragon, but because he trusted the wrong person. If Butiannan continues to act so crazily, sooner or later, the entire Blue Dragon Society will be dragged into the pit. Mu Zi could vaguely guess what Chu Xiu meant, so she didn't wait for Chu Xiu to continue asking and directly said, Young Master Chu, if you want to kill Butiannan, not only will adoptive father not stop you, he will even join hands with you. Butiannan's existence has already endangered the future of the entire Blue Dragon Society. As long as you don't vent your anger on the Blue Dragon Society and only kill Butiannan, adoptive father won't have any objections. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, Oh, join hands? Isn't your adoptive father already imprisoned by Butiannan? How can we join hands? Mu Zi said, After all, adoptive father is the second dragon head of the Blue Dragon Society. He has been in the Blue Dragon Society longer than Butiannan, and all the big and small matters are handled by adoptive father. Therefore, after so many years, adoptive father's prestige is higher than Butiannan's. Right now, adoptive father is imprisoned by Butiannan without any resistance, but he is only not allowed to leave the Blue Dragon Society. He can still see other people. In the entire Blue Dragon Society, half of the Blue Dragon heads are on adoptive father's side. Among the 36 Big Dipper divisions, adoptive father can completely control half of them. Among the remaining half, only a few are completely loyal to Butiannan. The attitude of the rest is unclear. After hearing this, Chu Xiu also shook his head slightly. He didn't expect that Duanmu Qianshan, the second dragon head, would have such great power. To be honest, if he was Butiannan, he definitely wouldn't tolerate such a subordinate around. However, the difference was that if the other party didn't show any signs of rebellion, Chu Xiu would only think of ways to make himself stronger. On the other hand, Butiannan would only violently seize power or even kill people. In this way, it was very likely that the other party would retaliate. Chu Xiu thought for a moment and said, Go back to the headquarters of the Blue Dragon Society first, and ask your adoptive father if he is willing to join hands with me. Give me accurate information. Of course, you need to hide my current situation for the time being. Mu Zi didn't even think before directly agreeing, being incomparably straightforward. After saying that, Chu Xiu was afraid that the other Sun family members would hear the commotion, so he asked Mu Zi to leave for the time being. However, before leaving, Mu Zi also gave Chu Xiu a password and a token. It allowed him to command the Assassin's branch of the Blue Dragon Society that was around the Sun family. At present, the people in charge of the Assassin's branch were Duanmu Qianshan's trusted subordinates, Han Kuai and Song Xiao. These two were one of the 4 great assassins of the Blue Dragon Society, and were absolutely reliable people. If Chu Xiu needed them, he could use these 2 items to command the Assassin's branch at any time. After leaving these things behind, Mu Zi returned the Blood Soul Pearl to Yi Xiao and left directly. Yi Xiao was actually quite curious. This senior of his seemed to know quite a lot of people in the pugilistic world, and they were all women. He didn't dare to think too much. Just now Mu Zi's blade really made him feel like he was about to die. That kind of feeling was something that he didn't want to experience in his life. This also made him realize that his cultivation was still too far away. In the Blood Soul Pearl, Lu Jianghe looked at Chu Xiu with a surprised expression and said, "You trust that little girl so much? What if she lied to you and turned around to tell Butiannan about your situation? Aren't you afraid that Butiannan would come over right now and drag you out of the Blood Soul Pearl?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I trust her, but I trust myself even more. When she tells these things to Duanmu Qianshan, and comes back to pass the message, I reckon that my body would have already been successfully reconstructed. At that time, even if I have to face Butiannan, I would still dare to fight him." Lu Jianghe looked at Chu Xiu with a surprised expression. He didn't know what Chu Xiu was planning to do. This kid seemed to be preparing to play a big game. However, after the body was reconstructed, Chu Xiu could at most recover to his peak. If his weapon was broken, where would he get the courage to face Butiannan? Chapter 851. When Mu Zi came at night, her movements were very light, and her presence was concealed to the extreme. In addition, during this period of time, Mu Zi had already stepped into the unity of heaven and man realm. With the strength of Sun Zhongming and the others, they did not discover her. It was only after dawn that Sun Zhongming and the others checked out, and left that the innkeeper discovered that one of the windows in the guest room was gone. However, the shopkeeper did not dare to say too much. After all, that person was from the Sun family of River East, and he was generous enough. The money he gave was enough to repair 100 windows. Sun Zhongming was unwilling to give up, so he went to the wind-sweeping tower to try again, but he still did not succeed. Yi Xiao, who was at the side, said, "Young master, wind-sweeping pavilion's attitude is too stubborn. I'm afraid that they won't be able to resolve this issue in a short time. Why don't we find a place to eat and rest for a while before we come up with a plan?" Even though wind-sweeping tower was the best in the field of anemophilia, it did not mean that there were no other anemophilia forces in the game. "I heard Southbridge City's cool breeze drunken moon and isn't bad. Why don't we go there and have a try?" During this period of time, Sun Zhongming relied on Yi Zhao's suggestions to successfully stabilize his position in the Sun family. The other disciples of the Sun family didn't even have the qualifications to compete with him. Even in the entire Sun family, because Sun Zhongming's suggestions had been successful time and time again, the weight of his words had almost caught up to his father, Sun Qifang. Of course, the real decision-makers were the Sun family's patriarch and Sun Qifang. Just like how the Sun family's patriarch and Sun Qifang valued Sun Zhongming also valued Yi Zhao's suggestion. Hearing Yi Zhao's words, he nodded and said, "All right, let's go eat first." At this time, in the private room of the Breeze Drunken Moon restaurant, Lu Guangling of the Lu family glared at his subordinate in anger. "What did you say? Those guys from the Blue Dragon Society are stalling again? What kind of T number 1 assassin organization is this? Why are they so slow in killing someone? I can send my own men to kill him." The subordinate lowered his head and said, "The people of the Blue Dragon Society said that killing is their business, and we don't need to interfere. It's our fault for not telling them the time beforehand, so they will only make a move when they have absolute confidence." Lu Guangling was so angry that he smashed his cup. However, he didn't dare to go to the Blue Dragon Society to demand an explanation. There were so many major powers in the underworld, but only a handful could afford to offend the Blue Dragon Society. Lu Guangling clearly didn't have the guts to do so. At that moment, Lu Guangling heard someone coming up the stairs. The voice was extremely familiar. He pushed the door open and saw Sun Zhongming coming up the stairs. Sun Zhongming was shocked to see Lu Guangling. "Why are you here?" Lu Guangling laughed coldly. "If you're here, why can't I be here? Can the forces of your River East Sun clan extend to Southbridge City?" Sun Zhongming snorted coldly. "Lu Guangling, you won't be able to be arrogant for much longer. Under the attacks of my Sun clan, your Lu clan has been retreating step by step. If you don't admit defeat now, you'll regret it if we really fight." Lu Guangling's face darkened at the mention of this. Firstly, it was because the Lu family was indeed at a disadvantage. Secondly, it was because Sun Zhongming was in the limelight. Now, everyone knew that the Sun clan's sinister ideas came from Sun Zhongming. It didn't matter if they were sinister or not, as long as they were effective. Therefore, all the aristocratic families looked up to Sun Zhongming, and Lu Guangling was naturally inferior. However, a smile appeared on Lu Guangling's face at this moment. "Whether you regret it or not, we'll talk about it later. But I think you'll regret it now. Don't you have a lover in Great Liang City's Heavenly Fragrance brothel? But prostitutes are heartless, and entertainers are heartless. Of course they'll follow whoever has the money. Your young master son has been scheming against my Lu clan recently, so he definitely doesn't have the time to take care of a woman. Don't worry, I'll help you take care of her. I've already bought that woman to the Lu clan, and she's been serving me on my bed for many days now." "You don't say, she's not bad at all." Sun Zhongming immediately exploded when he heard this. Although she was the top hostess of Heavenly Fragrance brothel, she was just a prostitute. How could he, young master son, fall in love with her? He was just playing around. But Lu Guangling's words made Sun Zhongming feel as if grass had grown on his head. This was an absolute humiliation. No man could tolerate something like this. Sun Zhongming immediately made a move. At this moment, Yi Xiao hurriedly pulled on Sun Zhongming and said, young master, please calm down." Although Yi Xiao was pulling on Sun Zhongming on the surface, in reality, he had secretly cut open a wound on his chest. Fresh blood continuously flowed into the blood soul pearl. At the same time, an extreme wave of mental energy also surged out of the blood soul pearl and entered Sun Zhongming's body through Yi Xiao. In an instant, his anger was triggered to the extreme. With a furious roar, Sun Zhongming's entire body exploded with astral energy. He directly sent Yi Xiao flying, and he charged crazily at Lu Guangling. Yi Xiao's face was pale as he shouted at the other Sun Clan martial artists. "Why didn't you guys stop him just now?" They thought that Yi Xiao's pale face was because he had been injured while pulling on Sun Zhongming, so they didn't suspect anything. They only said in an aggrieved tone, "Who would have thought that the young master would be serious? If he wanted to make a move, how could we dare to stop him?" Just as they were speaking, Sun Zhongming had already started fighting with Lu Guangling. The moment they actually started fighting, Lu Guangling's expression instantly changed. Sun Zhongming was fighting with his life on the line. Originally, he thought that Sun Zhongming was just angry. Now it seemed like he would not stop until he killed him. That woman was just a prostitute. Could it be that Sun Zhongming had really fallen in love with her? If that was the case, it would be the hatred of stealing his wife. It was no wonder he was so crazy now. The two of them fought intensely in the building, almost causing the breeze-drunken Moonin to collapse. One of them was ranked 10th on the Longhu leaderboard, while the other was ranked 9th. In reality, the two of them were about the same level of strength. However, when they really started fighting, Lu Guangling's hands and feet were tied, and he was at a disadvantage. Being suppressed by Sun Zhongming like this, Lu Guangling was also infuriated. The two spears in his hands pierced towards Sun Zhongming with unparalleled momentum. However, at this moment, Sun Zhongming did something that no one could have imagined. He actually used the strength of his hands to receive Lu Guangling's long spear. Even though the bones in his arms were shattered by the long spear and stellar energy, he did not let go. At the same time, blood gushed out of his mouth. However, under the support of the frost true qi, it condensed into a blood-colored icicle arrow. It shot towards Lu Guangling's chest, directly shattering his protective true qi and piercing into his chest. Lu Guangling's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. He did not believe that Sun Zhongming would actually kill him. He actually dared to kill him. With a loud bang, the corpse fell to the ground. Sun Zhongming dragged his temporarily crippled hands. His eyes finally regained clarity, but there was a look of confusion in them. He actually killed Lu Guangling. In that instant, Sun Zhongming was incomparably furious. That rage was simply uncontrollable. In the end, who would have thought that he would actually kill Lu Guangling? How was he going to explain this to the Lu clan? Their Sun clan was not ready to fight the Lu clan yet. At this time, Yi Xiao led the other martial artists over and commanded, "Stop the other Lu clan members. Do not let a single one of them escape." Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Sun Zhongming finally reacted and hurriedly ordered the others to kill the Lu clan members. However, he still put on a long face and said, "What should I do now? Why is Lu Guangling so weak? He's dead just like that." The elder patriarch is not ready to fight the Lu clan yet. This time, we've really gotten ourselves into big trouble. Yi Xiao said in a low voice, "Young master, don't worry. Our Sun clan is not prepared, and neither is the Lu clan. When you return to the Sun clan, young master, immediately encourage the elder patriarch to fight the Lu clan to the death. Only then can the clan reduce or even not pursue your responsibility." Sun Zhongming thought for a moment, and immediately nodded fiercely. At this point, this was the only thing they could do. However, when Sun Zhongming and the others returned to the Sun clan, everything that happened in the restaurant today had already spread throughout the entire Eastern Qi pugilistic world. The heir of the Sun clan of River East, Sun Zhongming, had killed Lu Guangling of the Lu clan in a rage for the sake of a beauty. This was big news, and it was the gossip that the pugilistic world loved to hear the most. It had only been a few days, and there were already countless melodramatic versions of the story. The top prostitute of the Heavenly Fragrance Brothel was even described as a goddess who had descended to the mortal world. When Sun Zhongming and the others returned to the Sun clan, they were immediately called over by the elder patriarch of the Sun clan, Sun Zuchang, Sun Qifang, and other senior members of the Sun clan to question them. Sun Zuchang looked at Sun Zhongming and said coldly, "What exactly happened? The clan has not prepared to fight the Lu clan yet, and you killed him. This time, even if we don't want to fight, we have no choice." Hearing this, Sun Zhongming immediately knelt on the ground and said with his head lowered, "Elder Patriarch, I was rash in this matter. That Lu Guangling was too much of a bully, and I couldn't hold back and killed him. I originally thought that he was one rank higher than me on the Longhu leaderboard, but I didn't expect him to be so useless. Of course, no matter what, this is all my fault, and I am willing to bear all the responsibility. But now our Sun clan cannot delay any longer, and we have to attack the Lu clan immediately. Our Sun clan is not prepared, and the Lu clan is not prepared either. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the upper hand. It's a good opportunity to destroy the Lu clan in one go." Sun Zhongming's speech was taught to him by Chu Xiu. Otherwise, with Sun Zhongming's character, he would definitely quibble over and over again, which would only arouse Sun Zuchang's disgust. Indeed, after hearing Sun Zhongming's words, Sun Zuchang's anger was greatly reduced. Moreover, it was better for the Sun clan's disciples to kill someone than to be killed. This also proved that the Sun clan's disciples were indeed stronger than the Lu clan's. Therefore Sun Zuchang could only sigh and said, "Since it has already happened, what's the use of punishing you? When the war with the Lu clan starts, as a disciple of my Sun clan, you will be able to fight bravely to atone for your crimes." Hearing Sun Zuchang say this, Sun Zhongming was instantly overjoyed. At the same time, he also heaved a sigh of relief, knowing that he had passed the test. Disciple will definitely not let Elder Patriarch down. Chapter 852. Many people knew that there would be a battle between the Sun family and the Lu family. No one would have thought that the Sun family and the Lu family would have a life-and-death battle because of a woman. Moreover, the party that took the initiative to attack was the Sun family of River East, who had always been cautious and patient. Sun Zuchang adopted Sun Zhongming's suggestion and prepared to strike first. Although the Sun family had been patient, they were not idiots. Since they couldn't avoid this battle, why did they have to fight on the Sun family's territory? In the end, it would be the Sun family's property that would be damaged, so it was better to strike first. As Sun Zhongming's confidant, Yi Xiao naturally followed the Sun family to attack. In the Blood Soul bead, Lu Jianghe muttered, I don't want to say this, but the descendants of the Sun family's old tortoise are also not very good. Compared to their ancestors, they are also very useless. Even if you have given them so many ideas, I still think that the Sun family's chance of winning is not big. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, It doesn't matter whether it's big or not. Do you think I want to drive the tiger to swallow the wolf? You're wrong. Back in the illusory Six Realms, there was also the Lu family's old ancestor who added insult to injury. So this time, both of them must die. Lu Jianghe's heart moved, but he didn't continue to say anything. He had seen Chu Xiu's plan along the way, and even he felt sorry for the Sun family. First, they got close to Sun Zhongming through Yi Xiao, and then through Sun Zhongming, they got in touch with the entire Sun family's upper echelons. Chu Xiu didn't even show his face, but the Sun family had been following Chu Xiu's script. In the end, they wouldn't even know how they died. The Lu family naturally noticed that the Sun family had come with such a big lineup, but there was nothing they could do. The Lu family couldn't be blamed for their slow reaction, but they really didn't expect that the Sun family, who had always been patient and cautious, would dare to kill their heir and openly provoke them. Even the others didn't expect the Sun family to do this. It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling everything, but the problem was that Sun Zuchong was in existence in the true fire spirit refinement realm. Who could affect him? The others didn't understand, and naturally, the Lu family didn't understand either. Therefore, the Lu family was still researching, wondering why the Sun family would take the initiative to provoke them, and whether there was a conspiracy. But before they could come to a conclusion, the Sun family had already come knocking on their door. In front of Gao Ping's Lu clan's mansion, the light of formation Dao shone brightly. Although the Lu family was caught off guard, they were not completely defenseless. The ancestor of the Lu clan held a dark blue spear that emitted a gloomy, cold aura. He looked at Sun Zuchong and said coldly, I've miscalculated this time. I didn't expect your Sun clan to be so ruthless just for a cultivation technique. If I had known this earlier, my Lu clan would have gone all out from the beginning, and not given the Sun clan any chance. The ancestor of the Sun clan snorted and said, Even if your Lu clan had gone all out from the beginning, you still wouldn't have had a chance. Although Sun Zuchong sounded tough, he was actually very bitter in his heart because he didn't want to fight this battle at all. If Chu Xiu hadn't secretly let the Sun clan gain the upper hand, and if Sun Zhongming hadn't killed Lu Guangling, the two sides would have become enemies. Then the result of this matter would have been that both sides would have taken a step back. The Sun clan would have taken out enough conditions to exchange for the Lu clan's half of the cultivation technique, or the Lu clan would have taken out conditions to exchange for the Sun clan's half of the cultivation technique. But now Lu Guangling had been killed, and there was no turning back. Although this battle was a little strange, they could only fight to the end. Sun Zuchong said in a deep voice, Old man Lu, I'll give you one last chance on account of the fact that our families were once in-laws. Hand over the other half of the cultivation technique, and I can spare your Lu family this once. The ancestor of the Lu clan sneered and said, All right, my grandson died in the hands of your Sun clan. Take Sun Zhongming's life as compensation, and I'll give you the other half of the cultivation technique. Sun Zuchong sighed, but in the next moment he took a step forward. Icy qi shone around him, and he pointed out with his finger. The qi of heaven and earth began to condense in midair, turning into a long icicle sword that was dozens of feet long, and it attacked the ancestor of the Lu clan with terrifying power. The ancestor of the Lu clan also snorted coldly. The long spear in his hand was like a bolt of lightning, directly attracting the power of the nine heavens. Every time the spear landed, there would be a thunderous explosion. Seeing that the two ancestors had already started fighting, the rest of the disciples of the Sun clan and Lu clan also began to attack under the command of their respective elders. The formation around the Lu clan and Sun clan shone brightly. Not only had the Lu clan prepared a formation, but even the Sun clan had prepared some auxiliary formations to facilitate the attack. Among the 9 great families, although the strength of the Sun clan and the Lu clan was not the strongest, They were definitely not weak. At present, the two sides were engaged in a battle of annihilation. Tens of thousands of warriors were involved in the battle, and the power was simply terrifying. Although it could not be compared to the battle between the righteous and demonic paths in the moon-worshipping cult, it was still intense enough. Such an intense battle was naturally observed by the side by wind-sweeping tower. However, the battle before them was too intense. Moreover, both sides' matrices overlapped. The layers of matrices shone brightly, not only blocking everyone's vision, but also their perception. This made the people from Wind-Sweeping Tower feel a little depressed. Qi Yuanli led a group of people from Wind-Sweeping Tower to observe the situation halfway up the mountain. Seeing this, he directly took out a recliner from the secret space box and lay there comfortably, waiting for the fierce battle to end. Seeing Qi Yuanli's expression, the surrounding warriors from Wind-Sweeping Tower were slightly speechless. This was a fierce battle between two of the 9 great families. Deputy Tower Master, can you be more serious? In fact, Qi Yuanli was quite serious at this moment because he had been thinking about why the battle between these two families was so inexplicable. Wind-Sweeping Tower's analysis of intelligence could be said to be quite accurate. Previously, according to their predictions, these two forces would definitely not fight each other. But now both sides were really fighting, and it seemed like they would not stop until one side was dead. Strange, really strange. At this time, inside the formation, the people of the Sun clan and the Lu clan had already begun to fight. Sun Zhongming, Yi Xiao, and a few other followers stood in the corner and did not make a move. Although Sun Zuchong had previously said that he wanted Sun Zhongming to fight bravely and redeem himself, in fact, he was after all the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Sun clan of River East. If he was killed in this kind of chaotic battle, there would really be no one to blame. Therefore, Sun Zhongming only led his people to watch the battle in the corner, and did not directly participate in the battle. However, at this time, no one noticed that Yi Xiao had placed the blood soul bead on the ground. Suddenly, a strange blood-red color bloomed from the blood soul bead, and extended to the ground. In a martial arts battlefield with tens of thousands of people, there were people dying every moment. The pungent smell of blood filled the entire space, but at this time, lines of blood rose from the ground and continuously extracted the blood and qi of the corpses. These lines of blood were extremely thin, and in addition to the fact that everyone was fighting fiercely with blood flowing on the ground, no one noticed this strange situation. Inside the blood soul bead, Lu Jiang he looked at Chu Xiu, who was using the demonic blood technique to extract the blood and qi of the corpses. He finally knew how big Chu Xiu was going this time. Based on Lu Jianghe's character in the past, his physical body had been destroyed many times. However, the so-called body reconstruction was only to create the weakest body, which might not even reach the innate realm. Then he would continue to kill people and extract blood, step by step, to return to the peak. Generally speaking, as long as one cultivated the demonic blood technique, there was only one way. Otherwise, where could one find a battlefield where tens of thousands of people were fighting fiercely, and the strength of the cultivators could not be weak, so that one could take advantage of them? The probability of this happening was almost zero, but now Chu Xiu had forcibly created such a battlefield, which was simply shocking. This was the blood of tens of thousands of people, and the strength of the cultivators was not weak, ranging from blood condensation innate realm to martial Dao grandmasters. With so much blood, not only could Chu Xiu rebuild his body to the peak, it was even possible for him to reach the next level. The blood-red light on the blood soul bead had condensed to the extreme, and at this moment, a dark light appeared. This light condensed and turned into a pill covered with demon crests. It was Chu Xiu's indestructible demon core. But the strangest thing was that below the indestructible demon core, a stone-like object also condensed, with strange patterns on its surface. Chu Xiu was taken aback. Wasn't this the so-called Heaven Ascension Key that High Heaven Sect had mentioned? How could it be in his possession, and even integrate into his body? Could it be that when the spirit array shattered, this thing merged with his indestructible demon core? Chu Xiu didn't have time to think so much. The countless blood-red threads on the ground poured into the indestructible demon core, and the scarlet light became even brighter. Such a big movement. Even a blind man could see it. Sun Zhongming and the others were suddenly shocked. They turned their heads and looked at the evil thing wrapped in a mass of blood-red threads in amazement. At this time, Yi Xiao was standing next to the mass of blood-red threads, and although there was surprise in his eyes, he still remained calm. Sun Zhongming looked at Yi Xiao in amazement and asked, "What is this thing?" Yi Xiao didn't speak and just stared at the mass of blood-red threads. To be honest, he was also very curious about who this mysterious senior was. Inside the blood soul bead space, the face of this senior was always covered with a layer of blood mist, making it impossible to see his face clearly. Now he finally knew the identity of this senior. For people like Sun Zhongming, Yi Xiao had long since had enough patience. At this moment, the outcome was already decided, so of course he didn't bother to play along. Seeing that Yi Xiao didn't answer him, Sun Zhongming couldn't help feeling that something was wrong. Before he could say anything, the mass of blood-red threads twisted and finally turned into a person composed entirely of blood. Although this person's whole body was composed of blood, it was vivid and lifelike, and his eyebrows and eyes were clearly visible. Chu Xiu stretched his head and looked at Sun Zhongming. "What did you say before?" "I, Chu Xiu, am dead. So dead that not even my dregs remain, so you dare to touch my people?" Chapter 853. Sun Zhongming stared at Chu Xiu, who was made of fresh blood, as though he had seen a ghost. In fact, he had indeed seen a ghost. A guy who had been blasted into smithereens in front of everyone had actually appeared before him in such a strange form. If this wasn't a ghost, what else could it be? A dead person would always be more terrifying than a living person. At least this was the case for Sun Zhongming. Previously, Sun Zhongming had not dared to provoke Chu Xiu. But now, as he looked at Chu Xiu, an extreme sense of fear rose in his heart. Sun Zhongming trembled. Just as he was about to say something, he realized that his body was being sucked towards Chu Xiu uncontrollably. Before he could say a word, he realized that all the blood in his body was boiling and flowing towards Chu Xiu's body. In an instant, Sun Zhongming's entire body had been sucked dry and turned into a dried corpse. The other martial artists who followed Sun Zhongming wanted to escape, but with a wave of Chu Xiu's hand, all their blood was sucked dry and their bodies fell to the ground. Yi Xiao looked at Chu Xiu in front of him, and was also so shocked that he could not speak. Although this generation's Longhu leaderboard had almost all been replaced with new people, there were many monsters in the previous generation's Longhu leaderboard. How could someone like Chu Xiu not be recognized? This was especially so for Yi Xiao. Because he was often bullied, the person he respected the most in the previous generation's Longhu leaderboard was not the famous little celestial master, nor was it Zhong Xian, who came from a large sect. Instead, it was Chu Xiu, who came from a lowly devil Dao and was ruthless and decisive. He had never expected that a person who only existed in legends would appear before him in such a way, and even teach him martial arts. Yi Xiao was so emotional that he did not know what to say. Chu Xiu pointed behind him and said, "Kid, hide further away later. It won't be fun if you get hurt by accident." Before Yi Xiao could react, Chu Xiu waved his hand and sent Yi Xiao hundreds of meters away. Looking at the scene in front of him, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes. In an instant, the blood-red glow around him intensified, and countless blood lines entered his body in a frenzy. Chu Xiu and the others were only at a corner of the battlefield, so Chu Xiu's movements did not attract much attention. However, at this moment, a layer of flames ignited around Chu Xiu. The flames were like gold and silver, causing the qi and blood around Chu Xiu to boil. Chu Xiu's current body was completely made up of fresh blood. Once the layer of flames burned, it caused Chu Xiu's body to shrink rapidly. However, even more blood threads rapidly surged into Chu Xiu's body, replenishing the qi and blood he had consumed. Seeing this, Lu Jiang he was shocked. F***CK. Inner Force True Fire? What are you going to do, kid? The body condensed from fresh blood was also a part of Chu Xiu. At this moment, Chu Xiu felt as if he was in an alchemy furnace. There was an extreme burning pain around him, causing his nerves to be stretched to the extreme. I've said it before. I've wasted more than half a year. Of course, I can't just let it go like this. After the body is reconstructed, I don't want to just return to my previous appearance. I want to improve further. Chu Xiu's words seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. However, at this moment, the power around his body became more and more solid, gradually revealing his physical body. However, within his physical body, there was also a gold and silver inner force true fire burning. It was like forging weapons and forging swords, tempering his body to become even more perfect. True fire body refinement. Lu Jiang he immediately thought of the junior named Chen Qingdi in the past. The path he had taken could be said to be shocking. Now Chu Xiu was walking the same path as Emperor Chen Qingdi. However, to be more precise, he was gathering all the paths together. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to reconstruct a body that could be said to be perfect. Using the eternal demon pill as a guide, he could preserve his own origin, and at the same time refine all kinds of power. Then he would use the demonic blood power to absorb endless blood and qi, refining it into the purest power to reconstruct his physical body. In the end, Chu Xiu even used the inner force true fire to temper his body, just like Chen Qingdi. Because Chu Xiu was reconstructing his body this time, the path that Chen Qingdi had walked for more than 10 years, Chu Xiu could directly go from weak to strong, completing it in one step. No wonder Chu Xiu said that he was going to play it big this time. According to Chu Xiu's plan, he might be able to walk a path that no one had ever walked before and no one would be able to walk after. His body had been tempered to a perfect level by the inner force true fire, but he had yet to experience the true fire spirit refinement realm. Therefore, Chu Xiu's future path was even wider than Chen Qingdi's. Amidst the true fire of internal strength, Chu Xiu was constantly experiencing the torment of being roasted by fire. However, he had to endure it at all times, mobilizing the power of the true fire of internal strength to temper every meridian in his body. After planning for such a long time, provoking 2 of the 9 super clans into a life and death battle, using the blood and qi of tens of thousands of people to reconstruct his body, even if Chu Xiu was given another chance, he might not succeed. Therefore, during this period of time, Chu Xiu could not tolerate the slightest mistake. Previously, Chu Xiu already knew that Chen Qingdi had tempered his body with the inner force true fire, so he naturally knew how great the pain was. However, he did not expect that the pain could be so intense. Chu Xiu only needed to endure this moment to be considered a success, but Chen Qingdi had to endure this pain for more than 10 years to finally reach his current realm. It had to be said that in terms of sheer willpower, there was probably no one in the entire Jianghu who could compare to Chen Qingdi. The body that was filled with extreme power was born in the inner force true fire. At the same time, the invincible demon core was circulating wildly in Chu Xiu's body, transforming his qi and blood into extremely pure qi. From the innate stage to the inner invulnerability and outer invulnerability, from the 3 flowers at one's prominence to the unity of heaven and man. In the end, the invincible demon core blossomed with a dazzling brilliance, directly penetrating the body and merging with the inner force true fire that interweaved with gold and silver all over Chu Xiu's body, turning it into a demonic power that soared into the sky. With a wave of his hand, a black robe had already covered Chu Xiu's body. At this moment, he could be considered to have truly reshaped his body. To be precise, this was not reshaping, but rather Chu Xiu had created a more perfect body for himself. Although there was no glazed golden silk goo, Chu Xiu's current body could be said to be perfect and flawless. It could even be said to have the appearance of a celestial being. Even if Chu Xiu crippled his own martial arts, if he were to cultivate back, his cultivation speed would still be tremendous. Previously, when Chu Xiu did not cause such a huge commotion, the surrounding people did not notice him. After all, at that time, both sides were engaged in a life and death battle. Who would divert their attention to observe other places? But now, the scene of demonic qi soaring into the sky attracted everyone's attention. In an instant, Chu Xiu had already become the focus of everyone present. Raising his head, Chu Xiu took a step forward. Ink-like demonic qi lingered around his body as he brought Chu Xiu a distance of 100 feet with each step. Looking at Sun Zuchang and Lu Clan's ancestor, the corners of Chu Xiu's lips curled into a smile. Both of you, how have you been? I'm here today to collect my debt, to collect my life debt. Sun Zuchang and the Lu family's patriarch looked as though they had seen a ghost. They could not believe that Chu Xiu was still alive. Jingchan Jizong was already dead on that occasion, and not even his dregs were left. Yet Chu Xiu was still alive. Sun Zuchang and Lu clan's ancestor were not ignorant and ill-informed Sun Zhongming. They had naturally heard of some secret techniques circulating in the pugilistic world that could allow people to revive after death, but the conditions were extremely harsh. They never expected Chu Xiu to know such a secret technique. Furthermore, he was able to stand in front of them again in such a short period of time. Glancing at Sun Zhongming, who had turned into a dried corpse, Sun Zuchang asked with a trembling voice, "Did you plan all of this behind the scenes?" "Oh, how did you find out about this? You're not so old and muddle-headed after all." Chu Xiu looked at Sun Zuchang and Lu clan's ancestor and spread his hands. "My principles are very simple. If someone wants to kill me, I'll kill them. Of course, when no one provokes me. I'm still very easy to talk to. You've successfully killed me once, so you can't blame me for bringing harm to your family. After saying so much, there's only one main point, and that is all of you must die." Sun Zuchang and Lu clan's ancestor exchanged looks. Without a word, they charged at Chu Xiu at the same time. In the past, in the illusory Six Realms, they had all seen the battle between Chu Xiu and Jingchan Jizong. Their strength was so powerful that it made people tremble. A real pellet state and a real fire spirit refinement state. As a result, the battle between the two of them actually unleashed the power of the heaven and earth mystic realm. This was simply terrifying. Why would he care about enmity now? Why would he care about techniques? If they didn't join forces, then it would really be like what Chu Xiu said. They all had to die. Lu clan's ancestor's body was shining with lightning. The power of the ninth heaven thunder in mid-air was integrated into his spear. As the spear fell, a huge force was poured into it as if it was going to shatter the mountains and rivers. At the same time, Sun Zuchang sent a punch forward. Extreme power erupted from his aged body as layers of ice true energy stacked on top of each other. Wherever it passed, snowflakes drifted down even though it was midsummer. With the support of the ice true energy, the snowflakes were akin to icicles as they shot towards Chu Xiu in a densely packed manner. Chu Xiu stepped out. It seemed to be a light step, but it made the entire ground burst into a violent tremor. Countless gravel soared into the sky, like an earth dragon turning over. Chu Xiu formed the colorless fixed palm print with one hand, and directly resisted the spear of Lu clan's ancestor. Even with the power of the ninth heaven thunder in it, the power of the spear was completely destroyed by the colorless fixed palm print. The spearhead was directly held in Chu Xiu's hand. With a shake, the Lu clan's divine weapon, Meteorite Thunder Spear, that had been passed down for thousands of years, was directly broken by Chu Xiu. Lu clan's ancestor was also directly blown away by this force. At the same time, Chu Xiu's left fist fell. It was a simple punch, but it contained a powerful fist intent that could break the world. This even gave Sun Zuchang an illusion that he was facing Chunqing Di. With a single punch, the ripples of power between the two of them exploded. Layers of ice crystals shattered and melted under the burning flames of inner force around Chu Xiu. The powerful force completely pulverized the surrounding rocks and soil. Sun Zuchang was also sent flying by this punch, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 854. One move shattered the divine weapon, repelled the Lu family's old ancestor, and seriously injured Sun Zuchang with one punch. Chu Xiu's current strength was simply terrifying. Looking at his hands, Chu Xiu wanted to shamelessly sigh at this moment. "I'm really strong." Chu Xiu's internal force didn't improve much compared to before. At the same time, his comprehension of heaven and earth didn't improve much. The only improvement was his understanding of martial arts in the past 6 months. However, the power contained in his body had increased exponentially, to the point that Chu Xiu himself couldn't adapt to it. Now Chu Xiu finally understood why Xie Xiaolu, as Chunqing Di's personal disciple, didn't completely inherit Chunqing Di's tyrannical fist intent. It was very simple. Only a powerful body tempered by true fire could accommodate this unparalleled fist intent. However, The feeling of mastering extreme power was really good. At this time in the outside world, the powerful force that Chu Xiu triggered erupted. It was like an earth dragon turning over, and the movement could be felt from more than 10 miles away. Qi Yuanli was so shocked that he couldn't care less about lying there. He looked in the direction of the two sides in surprise. The Sun family and the Lu family were actually playing such a big game. What exactly did they use? Were they preparing to perish together? Qi Yuanli wanted to send someone to take a look, but in this situation, the strength of the people he sent was too weak, and it was easy for them to be accidentally injured. However, if the strength of the people he sent was too strong, it was easy to cause misunderstandings. So Qi Yuanli scratched his head and thought of a way. But at this moment, a more violent fluctuation came from the formation. There was even an extreme evil blood aura blooming, causing Qi Yuanli to feel a chill all over his body. At this time, inside the formation, Chu Xiu laughed. He formed a seal with his hands, and countless blood shadows flew out behind him, pouncing on the martial artists of the Sun family and Lu family below. As soon as the blood shadow technique was used, the entire battlefield was like a meat grinder. Anyone who touched it would die without a doubt. Even a martial Dao Grand Master could not resist a blood shadow. At most, they could entangle it for a while. The people from the Sun and Lu families, who were fighting to the death just now, were now working together to resist the blood shadows, but it was all in vain. Seeing his own disciple being slaughtered by Chu Xiu, the eyes of the patriarch of the Lu family turned red instantly. Chu Xiu, I will fight it out with you. As soon as he finished speaking, the Lu family's ancestor bit off a portion of his index finger. Blood splattered as he drew a lightning rune in the air. Different from the Thunder Talisman of Dragon Tiger Mountain, the Thunder Talisman drawn by the ancestor of the Lu clan was a pictographic talisman inscribed in ancient times when the human race first tried to record wind, rain, thunder, and lightning with words. It had a trace of connection with heaven and earth. The talisman only consisted of a few simple strokes, but it outlined the most original power of thunder in the world. As the talisman was completed, the sky was instantly filled with lightning sparks. Thunder roared in the air, and thunder rumbled. The patriarch of the Lu clan grabbed with one hand, 4 of his fingers clenched tightly in the void, and a lightning dragon shining with boundless thunderbolts was forcibly caught in his hand. It turned into a lightning dragon spear, and pierced towards Chu Xiu with the unparalleled momentum of breaking armies. Controlling the power of heaven and earth with the power of a human, the Lu family's ancestor was suffering the backfire of thunder every second. Needless to say, he was also a ruthless person. He even cultivated such a forbidden secret technique. It was obvious that he really hated Chu Xiu to the extreme. As the greenish-purple lightning spear approached, Chu Xiu used his palm as a saber and slashed forward. The extremely pure demonic qi spread, compared to the explosive and overbearing lightning dragon spear. The saber intent of Chu Xiu's saber even felt a little fleeting. However, it was this saber that seemed to have frozen the space. Everywhere it passed, the space was forcibly cut in half like a painting. The spear that was completely formed from the power of thunder was actually cut in half by this strange saber. Misty red dust slash. The heavenly demon dance was already useless. Although Chu Xiu used his palm as a saber, and successfully used the misty red dust slash, when his palm collided with the power of thunder, he had to bear the brunt of the force. Therefore, Chu Xiu's right hand began to continuously explode in the thunder. However, the strange thing was that sometimes, even if the bones in Chu Xiu's hand exploded, it would immediately recover after a flash of blood. This was not the power of the demonic blood technique, but the true power of the eternal demon pill. Chu Xiu had successfully cultivated the eternal demon pill a long time ago. However, the truth was that Chu Xiu had never understood the function of the eternal demon pill. Until his body was reconstructed, Chu Xiu had thought that the eternal demon pill was only equivalent to strengthening the demonic blood technique, and that it could protect his true spirit from being destroyed at crucial moments. However, if the eternal demon pill was really that simple, then Chu Xiu had underestimated Dugu way too much. Eternal and indestructible. Without experiencing true annihilation, how could one know what true indestructibility was? Only when one was at the juncture between annihilation and indestructibility could one comprehend the true meaning of the eternal demon pill, and the true way to use it. Just like now, as long as Chu Xiu had enough power, he would be an indestructible existence as long as he stood here. On the entire battlefield, the power of blood and qi produced by tens of thousands of people was nourishment for Chu Xiu. The source of Chu Xiu's indestructibility. Under the red dust slash, even if the Lu family's ancestor used all his strength and his trump card, it was still useless in the face of absolute power. At this moment, the Lu family's ancestor glanced over at Sun Zuchang. At such a crucial moment, Sun Zuchang had actually escaped first, and was about to escape the formation. The Lu family's people were about to die, but the Sun family still had a chance of survival. After all, he couldn't bring everyone from the Sun family to attack the Lu family. As long as he could escape and tell others that Chu Xiu was still alive, the Blue Dragon Society, Sabodhi Zen Monastery, and even the Elysium would definitely make a move. Therefore, at such a crucial moment, Sun Zuchang abandoned the Lu family's ancestor without hesitation and escaped first. Where there's life, there's hope. Why did he have to risk his life? Even if someone risked their life, one person was enough. Don't worry, I'll send him to accompany you later. As soon as Chu Xiu finished speaking, he had already arrived in front of the Lu family's ancestor. He punched the Lu family's ancestor's head, causing it to explode. The headless corpse of the Lu family's ancestor slid down. Chu Xiu didn't even look at it. His body turned into a bloody light, and he stomped on the ground with both feet. Immediately, there was an explosive sound. Chu Xiu's stomp created a huge pit that was dozens of feet wide. The power that could be unleashed purely from one's physical body was extremely shocking. Chen Qingdi had already proven all of this. Now Chu Xiu was the same. This stomp exerted the power of his physical body to the extreme. Like a cannonball, Chu Xiu arrived behind the Sun family's ancestor in the blink of an eye. He formed a seal with his hand and a demonic bow appeared in Chu Xiu's hand. With one hand holding the bow and the other holding the bowstring, a demonic arrow with the power of nirvanic destruction condensed in Chu Xiu's hand. With a loud bang, it was shot straight at the Sun family's ancestor's back. Triple City Destroying Arrow. The Sun family's old ancestor felt the aura coming from behind him. A mysterious aura locked onto his surroundings, making it impossible for him to hide or evade. This arrow forced the Sun family's ancestor to turn around. He formed a fist seal and smashed it down crazily. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of seals were smashed down. A biting cold air condensed in front of him. The scene was like an iceberg lying in front of him. But under the power of the Triple City Destruction Arrow, everything was collapsing. The black arrow, the power of destruction, corroded everything. In the end, even one of Sun Zuchang's arms was completely eroded by the power of nirvanic destruction of the Triple City Destroying Arrow, and began to collapse. Sun Zuchang gritted his teeth. His left hand's true qi turned into a blade and directly cut off his right arm. Chu Xiu had a mocking smile on his face. Are you still thinking that after you return to the Sun family, you can still protect the remaining disciples of the Sun family, and leave a seed for the Sun family? Let me tell you a very unfortunate piece of news. You're wrong. Very wrong. Kill and destroy the heart. Cut the weeds and remove the roots. I've destroyed the Lu family and killed you. How could I leave the Sun family's people alive? Perhaps the disciples of the Sun family are already ahead of you. Just in time, I'll send you the ancestor to accompany them. Chu Xiu was used to doing things to the extreme, to the point of leaving no room for maneuver. The day before Sun Zuchang came to attack the Lu family, Chu Xiu had asked Yi Xiao to inform Luo Feiheng and Mu Ziyi's Heavenly Assassins branch, and get them to help eliminate the Sun family. A portion of the people in Luo Feiheng's 9 branches were her most trusted subordinates. They were definitely the kind that could keep secrets. The Heavenly Assassins branch that Mu Ziyi was in was directly under her foster father, and she would definitely listen to everything that she said. If the two of them worked together, it wouldn't be difficult to eliminate the Sun family silently. However, when Sun Zuchang heard this, his eyes turned red. I'll fight it out with you. Sun Zuchang spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, which turned into a blood mist that drifted away and fused with the countless icicles in the air. In an instant, it was like a sky full of blood rain that came crashing down on Chu Xiu. However, the blood rain brought with it a boundless cold blade, as though it wanted to slice Chu Xiu into 1,000 pieces. However, Chu Xiu's body was burning with the blazing flames of his inner force. The moment the blood mist came into contact with Chu Xiu's body, it was completely melted by him. Step by step he walked in front of Sun Zuchang. That powerful pressure made Sun Zuchang feel the fear of death. However, this fear also stimulated his ferocious nature. Just as Sun Zuchang was about to make his move, a blood-red shadow holding a sword appeared behind him without him noticing. The sword fell gracefully, and the blood-red sword directly broke through Sun Zuchang's protective true qi, piercing right through him. Sun Zuchang looked at Chu Xiu in disbelief. He wanted to turn his head back, but he didn't have the chance to do so. His vitality dissipated, and his body collapsed to the ground. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.